In New Delhi, the residents of Little Kabul, a neighbourhood at the heart of India's Afghan asylum-seeker community, are feeling the effects of the Taliban's shifting relationship with its regional neighbours. Until late 2023, Afghanistan's embassy in Delhi had been run by staff from the old democratic regime. But after all the diplomats working there claimed asylum in other countries, Taliban staff took over. Now the asylum seekers have no choice but to engage with the regime they fled to renew their passports.
Because if you don't have a passport, you don't have an identity document. There'll be many problems. Without a passport, the police can deport you.
He said that since the Taliban took over the embassy, they've been charging more for consulate services too. India is not the only country where Taliban diplomats are gaining a foothold in spite of the international community's refusal to grant formal recognition to their government. In late January, China received the credentials of the Taliban's envoy in Beijing, making it the first major nation to give tacit recognition to the group. Also in late January, a Taliban-organised meeting in Kabul on regional cooperation was attended by diplomats from Russia, China, Iran, Pakistan and Turkey, among others. And a new report by the International Crisis Group says Afghanistan's regional neighbours must engage with the Taliban.
That regional countries don't have an option of disengaging. Everything that happens in Afghanistan affects them intimately. And so both on trade and on security, it's absolutely vital that the region cooperate with the Taliban, as difficult as that is.
Outside the region, Western countries have implemented sanctions on the Taliban, and Afghanistan remains locked out of the international banking system, in part due to the Taliban's appalling record on women's rights and human rights more generally. For regional democratic countries like India, which funded Kabul's now unused parliament building before the Taliban returned to power in 2021, partnership with the Taliban is uncomfortable, say analysts. But there are gains to be made.
India also wants us to reach out to the Central Asian countries for resources, for oil. It does not want Taliban to make Afghanistan as a ground for terrorist groups, which would later come to target New Delhi.
I think a very sort of fast approaching medium-term horizon where everybody knows that Afghanistan is tremendously rich with mineral deposits. And everybody knows that, the economic future of the region is connectivity.
But for some residents of Little Kabul, the idea of reconnecting with Afghanistan remains unthinkable, even though life in Delhi is hard. Ahmed Parwez worked as a sports coach before he fled Afghanistan.
We are people all in problem because we didn't have get the job and didn't have money for food, for home rent, for some, because we are in deep depression in this situation.
He says he was regularly threatened by the Taliban for not growing a beard and cannot return. Henry Wilkins, VOA News, New Delhi.